When I graduated from Lyon College, I did not immediately step into the life I imagined. In fact, I ended up finishing my degree. I had zero job prospects. And so I packed up the things I wanted to keep for my dorm room and I moved back home to Wichita, Kansas, where I sold shoes and waited to see how my life would unfold. I would say that was probably one of the first really trying times of life after giving my life to Christ, right? So I had gotten baptized in college and was really just learning to walk with Jesus and pray more. So when I ended up back home in Wichita, Kansas, I was mortified and I was sad. Like, after I played my last basketball game senior year, then I did my extra semester as a coach. Like, when January hit and all my friends went back to school and I was still living at home, I didn't know what to do with myself. I had never been in that situation. I was never even a kid in high school who went to school all day and then just went home. Like, I always had practice or some sport or a job or something to do. And here I was, I went home for Christmas break and never went back to Arkansas. But fortunately, right before I left, I had given my resume piece of paper. I gave my piece of paper to the Career Center, and she helped me build a resume and told me about Teach for America because she realized that I had been a tutor all through college. And although I didn't know much about Teach for America, she showed me a video and I was like, I need to do this. And it was really about how kids enter a good school by a lottery. And I just thought that was crazy. And I knew I had had a really strong elementary school experience. It was fun and educational, and I loved my teachers. And I just thought, wow, that's not every kid's automatic experience. And so I was interested in Teach for America, but also terrified. And so I waited till the last 30 minutes of the deadline to finally submit all my paperwork. And then I just had to wait. So it was January, and I get a phone call or an email, I think, and I was asked for a first round interview, and I did it. I think it was over the phone, and then they called me back to tell me I'd made it to the second round. I don't think they called back till like February, and then they asked me to come to the nearest city. Like, they were asking applicants to come to like a main city, and then they would interview us like in groups essentially, and you had to prepare a lesson plan, which I had never done. I had never written a lesson plan. I studied international business and Spanish. I did not study education. So I didn't even know how to do a lesson plan. I didn't know how to create one. I didn't know how to write one. I didn't know what topic I would pick. And I'm trying to think, what did I do? I think I did math. I think I went to the Teach for America interview, and it was in another city. Like, it was in, I want to say it was at KU. I think I had to go up to KU for a day, an interview, and I taught multiplication, but you're not teaching kids. Like, okay, let me tell you what this was. They asked you if you're interested in the second round and are you willing to go to another city. I had nothing to lose. I was selling shoes, you guys. I was selling shoes at New Balance with a bachelor's degree and thought I was going to come out. Mind you, it was a bachelor's of business administration with the concentration in international business and Spanish. I was expecting to be an assistant manager somewhere, a manager, to do training and development. I was selling shoes as a sales associate. And like, not even as an assistant manager, like I was a sales associate. And so it was a very humbling experience at the time. And so I did it, and I drove from my hometown up to like the Lawrence, Kansas City, Kansas area. And everyone else who had also shown up to interview there, that's who you do your lesson. So all the other people interviewing is who you do your guest lesson to. What is it really called? Your mock lesson, like your demo teaching lesson. So I did that, and then you interview individually. So they take you back into like a separate room on campus, and there's a panel, and they ask you questions. And I just remember all of my answers were like, in my sorority, there was this one hard thing one time that I had to do. Like, literally, I was like, guys, I had no idea how to answer any of these questions. But I think what I was dismissing in that interview process was I had been in leadership positions, I had made decisions, I had things that I was really strong at, and definitely I had areas of growth. And that's all they were looking for was like, can you just share openly and honestly? Obviously, they don't know if you're being honest, but you know, you can get a sense for it. And so I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, I was like, let me think about that question. And I think that the Career Center, I think we practiced some interviews. And one of the best things she taught me was when you're in an interview and they ask you a question, like, don't feel rushed to answer. Like, you are able to stop and pause and breathe and say, oh, let me think. And you're like, that shows that you're not just making something up. Like, you're examining your life to figure out what to share. And I remember doing that one time to say, you know, when have I don't know, done something hard? Because it's not that like I haven't done anything hard. Your brain goes blank in the room. You're like, I've lived my whole life. I know who I am. You just asked me one question about me, blank. I don't know who I am. I've never met me. That's essentially like what my brain does in those types of situations. So that's February. They send you home. And they essentially tell everyone thank you. Like, they're like, thanks for coming, and that's it. So I drove back home and I waited. And I think that's when we got an email. And the email says, we would like to pass you to the next round, but we've run into an unexpected problem. And it was that there were like hiring freezes. I was like, funding? There were hiring freezes happening all across the country. And so Teach for America is trying to place people in schools, and they can't be hired. So they ask, are you willing to change your regions? Like, because you got to choose when you do your application, you get to select which regions around the United States you want to go to. I to this day, I don't remember what I answered because I was pretty adamant I wanted to be somewhere where it was warm. So I picked like Hawaii, warm or fun. Like, I'd prefer both, but if I have to choose, like, it's just gotta be one of those two. So I picked like Hawaii, Jacksonville, Florida. I think I picked like Brownsville, Texas, because it was near the border and I wanted to get to speak Spanish. And then I picked Las Vegas. And I think when they asked me to change it, I do not remember doing this, but I think they asked you, are you open to going anywhere, or are you open to maybe, you know what, I bet I could find it in my email. But maybe they said, there are these certain regions, select which one you're open to. And I guess I changed. I don't really know. But so that's like March, we get this email, and then crickets again, like nothing, you guys. So I'm still selling shoes. And then April comes and they send another email and they say, hey, unfortunately, we're still on hiring freeze, but we wanted to let you know that you have been selected to move forward with Teach for America. However, we understand that you all have other options for employment and you need to communicate with them. And so if you are like unwilling to wait, or if you've made another decision, please let us know and we'll remove you. And I'm looking around like other people have other decisions. I had no other choices, guys. There were no other options. I could stay selling shoes, or I could stay selling shoes. Like, there were no one else. I wasn't interviewing anywhere else. I wasn't applying to any other jobs. I had started to think about maybe I should just go get another degree. Like, maybe I should look for grad schools, or maybe even a second bachelor's. Like, I didn't know. But I'm gonna tell you what I did. I did know. that no one else, I didn't need to respond to anyone else with the job offer, whether I was going to accept it or reject it. So that's the beginning of April. And at this point, I'm starting to feel very discouraged because I'm just like, what do you mean that I'm hired? Because the email was very celebratory, like, you have been selected for Teach for America, but unfortunately we still don't have anywhere to put you. And it wasn't just me, there were like a bunch of us like on this email. And I was like, okay, this is hard. And I was trying to hold that, like, I was trying to hold on to it because it kind of felt like my only out. Like, it felt like my only way out of Wichita. It felt like my only way to feel like my degree was worth it. Like, I had done all this work and it was meaningful. So May comes around and my college graduation, my line only did one graduation. So even though I finished in December, I couldn't walk until May. And they had sent out letters asking like, oh, let us know what job you secured because we're going to announce it and we're going to list it with your name at graduation. Devastated, distraught, pick one. I was so embarrassed. And all I kept thinking was, I need to get a job before graduation so I can tell them where I'm going to work, because I was not going to put New Balance. That's where I was working. I was selling shoes. And I was like, I am not putting New Balance under Syeeda Echols, Bachelor's of Business Administration, New Balance. Like, I just put so much pressure on myself that couldn't be there. And so I was like, okay, God's going to come through. God's going to come through. And I want to reword that. I don't know if I was thinking God's going to come through. I may have been at that time just like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I want to look a certain way in front of my peers. And I felt like that was, in my head, that was the answer to my dream or my expectations. Well, y'all, May 7th came. May 6th or May 7th. I can't remember what day I graduated. The only reason I remember is because it was my birthday. And so I think we drove down to Arkansas on my birthday. So I was turning like 22. And then my graduation was the next day. You know what wasn't there? A job. Baby, I had no job offer, nothing. Teach for America. I had been applying. I had submitted my resume back in November. Did my first interview on the phone in January. It is now May. And I had not heard anything back after them asking me a second time to wait around for them to make a decision. So I go to graduation and my name goes up on the screen, you guys. And it just says Syeeda Echols, Bachelor's of Business Administration. And the third line was blank. And I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. And I remember not even like wanting to be at graduation. Like, I remember just like, I want to be here, because that's all I could think about was, I have no job. I have a degree and I have no job. And I'm seeing some of my other like classmates who had jobs. And that was really hard for me at the time. Like, I get that if right now you're like, that seems so small, that's irrelevant. I'm glad that can be considered something small for you, because for me, my little heart was broken. I was embarrassed. First person in my family to graduate college, and the whole point of going to college is to get a job and like have your own apartment and be able to pay my own bills and have this money. And I was living at home in my childhood bedroom, working, selling shoes. So I was like, this feels like a lie. I don't even think I could see that what I had accomplished. Like, it's like, girl, you got the degree. And not just the degree. This is now your second degree because you've already earned one. I couldn't see any of that. So it was a good time. My mom and my grandma and I drove to Arkansas. I graduate, we come back to Kansas, and maybe like a week later, I get an email from Teach for America. What do you think it said? It didn't say I had a job. It did not say I had a job. They sent another email that I have got to find these because I am 99% sure these are in my inbox, and that's wild. So they say, this is our last ditch effort. We know that, like, basically it was a simple email. It was like, do you want to opt out of waiting on us? And I was like, at this point, yeah, like I need to opt out because I just need to put my eggs in a different basket. Like I've spent 4 or 5 months hoping and wishing and praying and expecting this, and it's not coming through. So I thought I marked no, or maybe I went to mark no and just said, just keep it open. Like we'll just see whatever happens. And so that was about a week after graduation. May 28th, I think that was the date. I go on my lunch break from New Balance and I get an email, and the subject says, welcome to the New York Core. What? Welcome to TFA New York Core. I didn't pick New York. It's cold and they have rats. Literally, that was my reaction. That was my reaction. I was like, I didn't pick New York. So you mean I waited all this time and now y'all have given me an opening in somewhere I don't even want to go? Y'all, a time. So simultaneously through all of that, two things had happened. A young adult ministry had started at my church, and the same church had a morning prayer, Tuesdays and Fridays, and I started going. Like I would literally drive to the church for prayer and then drive across town to work. And then the young adult ministry, whenever they met, I was there. Like I was up in that thing because, again, your girl was freshly baptized. Okay. She was like, I'm in this thing with Jesus. Don't know what I'm doing. Don't know what it's going to look like. But if the doors of the church are open, I'm going to be up in there. And I remember, for me, worship has just always been a part of my relationship with God. And in that season, I played Juanita Bynum's something called Wait. What is it? Hey Google, what is the Juanita Bynum song that's called Wait for You? Wait on You?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Hey Google, play Juanita Bynum Wait.
All right, playing Juanita Bynum on Spotify.
I don't know if it's gonna play the right song though. That ain't it. Hey Google, pause. I almost said, where's my phone? Okay, here's my laptop. You guys, I'm gonna look this up. Hold on. Because whatever that song was, every day on repeat, okay? Ooh, What a Wonder was good too by her. I Will Wait for You. That was the song. Juanita Bynum, I Will Wait for You. I played that all the time while I was praying. And I will say a benefit of that season of waiting was, I don't know, maybe there was a sermon or something preached at church, but that's when I started tithing. So in that season of going to work, I didn't make that much money, but I really don't know how it got started, but that's when I started to tithe. And when I look back on that season, I'm like, I have been tithing since then. Like that has just been it. And there were times where like a bill would come, like a medical bill, or like if I had a doctor's appointment, I had to send a bill, and I would tithe. And then I think I paid like for my car insurance, my gas, because when I graduated, my mom was like, here you go, sis. So I think I paid my phone bill, or maybe she kept paying my phone bill, but I had to pay for my car insurance and my gas. And I would get my check and then be like, okay, well, I'm gonna give Jesus this, and then like, what do I do with like? There's not a lot left with the rest of it, but it would always be enough. Like even if an unexpected bill, even if the last paycheck, I had no money left over, somehow an unexpected bill hit on this one, and I could pay it and still be fine. And so I really appreciated that season. And because of the young adult ministry, I got really close to the young adult ministers. So fast forward back to May, like all through this time while I'm waiting and working at this job that I didn't hate, it wasn't my dream. I was discerning, should I get another degree? And I was just like fully enveloped in Jesus and loving him and listening to worship music. Ooh, you know what other soundtrack for that season was? The Sound by Mary Mary. Played that thing out, and it was an actual CD in my car. So March 25th or March 28th comes. I need to remember which day it was. Not March, sorry, May. I think that's why I'm being thrown off, because March 28th some stuff is happening here this year. But then it might have been March 25th. And they say, welcome to New York Court. So I call my young adult ministers crying, like hysterically crying from my car. And they're like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, is there a car accident? I'm like, they responded. And they had been praying with me through this, like, if this was it. Although they had a lot more grace and peace. They were just like, yeah, if God opens the door, like, let's walk through it. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like New York that seemed so big and far. Oh my God, New York seemed so far away. And once again, I was like, how do I even get there? And where do I live when I get there? And I remember going to their house that night and praying with them and just being encouraged to like trust God. Like this is a season where you can trust God. And I learned a really great lesson from them. That's where I came to encounter the scripture, Matthew 6:33, like, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to it. And so that whole passage all about don't worry. And I think that back then, oh my God, I was a worry ward. The Lord was always just like, Matthew 6:33, read Matthew 6. Something else, read Matthew 6. And that scripture, I remember asking one night, like, but how do I seek first the kingdom of God? Like, what does that even look like? And I would be like, because I got to worry about this. And they're like, right. All those things you're worried about. If you just seek after God's will, all the things that you were concerned about, God is looking at them. So you look at God and God's looking at the stuff that you're concerned about. And I remember being like, I don't know how that's going to work, because I feel like I need to be looking at this stuff. But I tried it. And I had like steps and things to do to get ready to go to New York. And that was actually kind of fun. Like I had some trainings to do, and they sent information about like where you could live at in New York. And before I had been like, y'all, literally a girl from Wichita, Kansas, went to college in a very small town in Kansas, and then went to college in another small town in Batesville, Arkansas. So going to New York, I didn't even really know about the boroughs. I didn't know where I would live. I didn't know what school I would be at. So therefore I didn't know where I should live. And when I tell you that what you're worried about, God's already taken care of. So come to find out, I did have to buy my flight there. And I'm telling you, that little New Balance check, my last little New Balance check, or maybe I had one more after that. But honey, it bought my ticket. It got me there to New York. And when I got there, they actually were housing us in dorms all summer, so I didn't have to pay for housing, and we had a meal plan, so we got to eat. And then they did something really cool where they did like a scholarship award based on if you had received scholarships in college. And so I did receive some Pell Grants in college, and so you also got a Pell Grant type of award or a Pell Grant based award. And so I think I was there for like 2 weeks, and boom, like thousands of dollars just hit my checking account. And I was like, what? And I didn't need it. Like I didn't need to use it because I was terrified to get on the subway. And the program drove us to our schools every day. So while you're there training over the summer, you actually taught at a school, and you took classes over the summer, and they just trained us in like classroom management and working in diverse communities and lesson plans and all this stuff. So they really they take people who necessarily haven't been education majors, and they teach you like it's a very fast track of getting a bachelor's of education. So I picked, they also asked you like what grade level you'd prefer to teach, and I chose elementary school. I thought it'd be fun, and the Lord blessed. I went on one interview. I think I'd been there for like a day, or my first day of check-in, they had already scheduled an interview for me, and then they organized us getting to our interviews. And there were like a group of us that went to go interview together at one school, and by the grace of God, one of the girls in the group was already from New York. Like, she was a New Yorker. She knew the subway system, because I was like, when I say they organized it, they told us the address of where we were interviewing. I think they drove us to a train station, and then it was on us to get ourselves to the train station, or get ourselves to the interview, and then all the way back to the school. What? but God, there was a girl in my group who, she's like, and we were interviewing at the same school. And you know what makes matters even worse? My phone died right after my interview. So even if I didn't have her, I have no idea how I would have gotten back, because I had a dead phone, hadn't downloaded the subway app, didn't know how to use the subway. So she was able to get us back. And then when I get back and I charge my phone, on my voicemail was a phone call from a school. They hired me. Like, literally, I did one interview and got hired. And that was I think God favored me in that, especially because I had waited so long. I didn't know that other people who had applied, there were different cutoffs or something like that when you applied for Teach for America. And because I waited so long out of fear and didn't apply till November, people who had applied earlier than me had already known they were going to be in New York. And so they had been sent to schools to interview already. So the whole time I'm like still working and selling shoes, people had already been going on interviews since January at schools and were not getting hired. Like, I had no idea. That was a thing. And so here I go, I get there the next day, I interview, they hire me that day. And then I think somehow we met. Did they call me? I don't know what it was. But basically they tell me, based on where you got placed in a school, because there was like public schools, there were charter schools. I was placed at a charter school. That depended on the grad school program that you were going to go to, because for New Yorkers, you had to have a master's of education. Well, I think when I started with my school, they told me that they wanted to ask something of me, and they asked me would I be willing, just based on the makeup of our school, if I would be willing to get a second master's and get it in special education. I just met these people. They're my new employers. Can I tell them no? Can I be like, no, thank you, I only want to get one degree? And so I ended up moving to New York, starting a new job, and entering a grad school program that was a dual certificate program, all within 3 months. Yeah, I moved. So when they called me in May and told me, welcome to the New York Core, they needed me there by like June 21st, because I remember that's the day I flew out. And then I started training like the next day or 2 days later. And then in July, because I think our training was supposed to be 8 weeks, but I only did like 6 weeks, because the school I was placed at, they did their own new teacher training. And I'm telling you this because it's all important. They did their new teacher training, so they asked me and whoever else got hired for their school network to leave the Teach for America's training and go to the Achievement First charter school teacher training. And by the grace of God, y'all, because Jesus loves me, I started like July 29th. And because of that, that made my teacher contract start. And even though I only worked 2 days that month, y'all, I got a full month salary, first time ever as a teacher in 1 month, and that education award hit. I said, okay, Jesus, because before I left, I said, Lord, I need you to be real. I'm praying Psalm 91, but I said, Lord, I need you to be real and I need you to be with me. And through the whole process, like the rooming situation when I got to New York and in the dorms, y'all, I had my own room. Bless. I had to share a bathroom, but I had my own room. I had my own space. And then the school that I don't want to say practice taught because we did teach those kids, but the school that I trained at over the summer, I ended up meeting a girl who, I keep saying girl because we were so young, like we were babies. But I met Janelli and we became instant friends. I didn't know where I was gonna live, and she's like, "Oh, I was born and raised in Brooklyn. My parents, or no, she had siblings who were architects and designers, and they had just redesigned the bottom floor of her parents' brownstone. And so Janelli and I moved in with her parents in the basement. Like I say the basement, but it was the bottom floor. Y'all, I paid $400 a month in rent in New York. I didn't have to do a down payment. I had to do like any of that. And then her mom cooked dinner for us every single day. The way that I got to work, I didn't need to take the subway. I took a bus, and it was one bus. So I just like walked outside. I walked around a corner. I got on a bus. It went all the way to my school. Like I got off at the corner and I walked to my school, and then I would, after work, walk back to that corner and take the bus all the way home. And baby, that, when I tell you, that was about all I could manage with the New York City subway and metro. Like it was so overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do. And I'm a car girl, like I'm from the Midwest. So I did 2 years at Achievement First, teaching second grade, and while working on my master's in childhood education and special education. And then I earned those degrees. I church hopped for a little bit, and one of the experiences I think about a lot because I went to a church and someone had prophesied over me that I was going to speak to a nation of young people, or it was like I was called to young people. And I remember being like, because y'all know, I when you just walk into a church and someone just like, I mean, it didn't happen like that, but when you're just there and someone comes and prophesies over you, I'm like, I didn't know what to do with that. Didn't know what to do with that at all. So, but I remember writing it in the back of my Bible that I got at graduation, that had now gone with me from Wichita to Coffeyville to Arkansas, and now in New York. Like I had that same Bible with me and was still reading from it. And it was kind of like my little best friend. And it was just a time. So I did my 2 years, I earned my degrees, and I think May of my second year of being in New York, I was really itching to be like, I never wanted to stay in America. I always wanted to go overseas, hence the international business. And one of my dearest friends still to this day, shout out Jackie Parks. Jackie. That's my heart right there. I met Jackie my first year of teaching, and I couldn't have asked for a better mentor, friend, support system, call you out, give me space. I was so young and immature, and she was just such a blessing. And we traveled a lot. Like we went to Brazil together during spring break. I think we went to Costa Rica another year during spring break. Like we were just teacher friends. And she was actually a Teach for America alum, but we just weren't the same year. And she was just like, I just looked up to her so much and admired her. And she was so funny, but she could hold the line with the kids. And I remember just being like, oh my God, if I could just be like half a teacher, half the teacher Jackie is, I'll make it. So, but for me, I had an itch to go overseas. And so Jackie goes, oh, well, I used to teach overseas, and literally gives me her login to, what did we use, Jackie? Was it TIE Online? I think it was the International Educator, tieonline.com.org, something. So I went on there and uploaded my resume and forgot about it. because I was in a relationship at the time, and great person. My desire to go overseas was, I think, just too much for our relationship. And so the comment was made like, if you go overseas, we're gonna break up. Or I think it was like, if you apply this job, like we're gonna break up. And so then I was like, oh my God, because I had already put the application, I'd already put my resume online, and I was like, okay. So I think also in that, like, this was May, so it's my birthday, it's the end of the school year. I was graduating with my master's, and this is like so cool. Like, I just did 2 master's programs at the same time while teaching for the first time ever in a job I hadn't actually planned to be in one of the largest, biggest, not friendliest cities in the world. And I had such a good time in New York. And so my mom and my aunt fly out to New York for my graduation, and we're hanging out, all this stuff. And I tell my mom I'm thinking about it, and she's like, okay, like, I don't know if she said go for it, but I don't think she said don't. So I check my email like right after she leaves or something, and I had like 3 schools reach out and schedule interviews with me. And that's how I went from living in New York to moving abroad to go teach.